the First Peoples Radio presents Amplifying Voices, a project which aims to preserve, promote, and revitalize Indigenous languages and cultures. Schedler and Joyce Noonin are knowledge keepers. Over the past 20 years, the two have worked to implement sacred eagle feathers into Manitoba's court system. This is a continuation of their story.
To use the eagle feather and for it to work for you, you have to use it in a good way. You can't use it in a negative way, and you have to believe that this eagle feather means a lot to the person that's holding it. You can't just say, okay, I swear to tell the truth or whatever, and then toss it aside and hopefully that everything works out for you. The eagle feather has to be respected and treated and has to be taken care of and keep in a safe, sacred place.
One of the belief systems is that, like there are many belief systems, of course, is that if you use it in a negative way, it not only comes back to hurt you, but it could hurt your family. And when I hold the eagle feather, that's what I think, right? I have to make sure that I'm using it in a good way because they may not want to come kick me in the, where, but it could kick somebody else. Maybe that's not the right lingo. Anyway, that was part of it. The elders had suggested that we have a pipe ceremony. So we did approach the justice system and asked, okay, so in order for us to bring these eagle feathers into the courts, we need to have that ceremony outside the courthouse because this is where they are coming. This is where they are going to live, right, in each courthouse throughout Manitoba. They said we can't have a fire outside. We can't have anything like that happening outside the courthouse. So we said, okay, so we can't have it, but what if we didn't have a real fire? What if we had, like just your portable little bonfire, I don't know what, pit, and then pitch a teepee behind the law courts, and then we could have the ceremony there because the ceremony needs to be here. It needs to be close to the courthouse. And they said, no, we can't have it here due to safety reasons, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, what if we had it in one of the court rooms or the boardrooms in the courthouse, and we will have the smudge, the pipe ceremony, and we could just light a candle for fire, right? And they said, no, because that's also safety for people that have allergies and asthma. Understandable, of course, right? You don't want to make people sick. This is where reconciliation on my part comes in, I think. There's a lot of story behind that. So they said, okay, so if we can't have it there, what if we had it down at the Odena Circle, down at the Forks? And then people they'll be outside. We could have a sacred fire. We could have all the pipe ceremonies. We could have the buffalo robe that was suggested and the eagle feathers laid on the buffalo robe for that eagle feather ceremony to happen. So they said, yes, we'll do that. It was really amazing. I forgot to bring you a photo. We had at that time, the Supreme Court judges were in Manitoba. They were doing a session at the courthouse, and it was actually, it was very good timing that we had this ceremony. So we had the ceremony down at the Odena Circle. The judges came, the federal judges, the provincial judges, and they were robed. It looked really sharp. It was actually quite moving. Like it was really, really, really special. I know it was out of the area, but they made an effort to come, which was really good. But that wasn't the end of it because then they had to have their own ceremony at the law courts, right? Like the justice system. So then the Supreme Court judges could attend. So it was safe for them because they're already in the building, right? So then that happened. But in that ceremony, we had to have that teaching about the eagle feather. So we had an elder come in. Theatis came in and he explained the significance of the eagle feather in that ceremony. And then, of course, all that other stuff happened. It was just a blur to me now. It's been a while. Right prior to that, Joyce had gifted also many eagle feathers. I can't remember how many. And then the one that had gifted me, the 18 eagle feathers, and then the 21 eagle feathers that the federal judge had came together in that one room, right? So we had them all laid out for that ceremony on the buffalo robe. But also prior to that, we also had to do preparation for that. Like, it wasn't, I know we're trying to sum this up in half an hour, but it took years. Like, it just didn't happen overnight, because we had to train the court staff on how to take care of the eagle feather. We had to train them on how to, if they needed to be smudged. And, interestingly, the day before we had the ceremony, one of the federal judges asked for the eagle feather to be in his courtroom. They had to be trained on how they needed to be smudged and taken care of, but also the spiritual caregivers, the knowledge keepers, the Getiatseka, everybody that we had approached, even national, like all the different nations that I spoke to said, those eagle feathers need to be taken care of, and they need to have their yearly feast. So, but I'm retired from justice. I can't see that. And of course, COVID, right, happened. So I don't know. But they are being taken care of, and I'm still included in some of those, like the changes in the people in the courts, and they are being taken care of. But it's something that I had to, because of the connection that it had with us and all the work that we did with those eagle feathers. It felt like they were our children, and we had to really, really stress that they get proper care, and that the people that are responsible for caring for them need to be really mindful of the significance that it holds for First Nations, Indigenous, Métis people, right?
I've seen my sister work hard to get the eagle feather in there. Like, Grace is the one that really worked hard on it. And I've seen how much she dedicated her devotion to her job and to get this eagle feather in. And we spent a lot of hours together with the elder and the youths that we had. And it was really amazing, because it brought our little group of people that were working on it, eagle feather, really bonded with the people. And even now, like, the elder always asks, like, we see her once in a while, she always asks how things are going. But then now, like, say Grace is retired from there, and like, I used to interpret for the law courts too, so I know how important it is for people to have that, to have something to hold on to that they really believe in. Because of the residential school, with a lot of people that are in trouble, like bringing the Bible. Like, I interpreted for one guy, and he said, because of the experience he had at residential school, the Bible meant nothing to him. So that eagle feather meant a lot to him. And he actually cried when he told me he held the eagle feather in his hand when he went to court. And he said, the reason why I keep repeating what I'm doing something wrong, is he swore on something he didn't believe in. Now the eagle feather is more powerful to our Indigenous people, and it has more meaning to some of the, I won't say all of the Indigenous people, but the eagle feather is very powerful to our people.
You know that the eagle feather has its own powers, right? Like, if somebody used the eagle feather in a court, and they use it in not in a good way, the court clerks actually recognize that, because they sit in there, right? They can see. And then they would come to us and they would say, the eagle feather, I think, was not used in a good way. Should we smudge it? What should we do? We said, yes, of course, we will do that, right? But because we can't always smudge in the courts, we had to make a lot of different things. Like, we had to make liquid smudge, right? So that's another thing that we did, is that we've got some cedar, and then we boiled the cedar, and then we put it in those little spray jars, and then that way, if they needed a quick cleanse, we would spray that. And why we smudge as First Nations and people is to make a fresh beginning, right? And we believe that. I mean, it's something that we're preparing, because if you make bad decisions, you smudge it away, kind of thing. You clean it, and then you try and get rid of that negative energy, like Joyce said. Like, we have things that are overwhelming sometimes for us, and then because we think that the feathers and everything has a soul and spirit, that the eagle feather has the same, right? I think, anyways, that's just me. I'm not speaking for anyone else. And it's to clear away the negative thoughts. So if there's any negativity sitting on the eagle feather, let's say, we don't want it, in my belief, that we don't want it to transfer to the next person. So we want to make sure it's prepared for the next, because it's got a lot of work to do being in the court system, right? And because it's a eagle is not you can't just go shoot an eagle and take its feathers, and you can't just carry the feathers all over the place. So we also had to have the resource officer give us a wildlife certificate to put in each of those folders with the eagle feathers, so that they wouldn't think that we were carting them all over without that proper, I mean, there's two worlds, right? There's the First Nations and Métis world, and the non-Indigenous world. And it was really important that we had that, so that the court clerks that were non-Indigenous, when they were carrying it, felt comfortable to take it with them, right? It's good. I've been hearing good things. A lot of people have used them. There are some that are getting worn out and need to be redressed. But that's up to them, not us anymore. Like, those are not our thing. But they're being well used. And one of the stories, like, we were sitting when we first introduced it into the courts, is that we had a young woman that came into the court that was very distraught, right? The crime she did was very horrendous. And she sat in the courtroom with her head down. She wouldn't even look up. She wouldn't, and then we said, well, give her the eagle feather. So they had set it in front of her, but she just kind of sat there. And then when break time came, we said, why don't you pick it up and just hold it? And when she was holding it, she actually sat straight up, and her demeanor had changed. And I think that helped her through the whole process, because it's not an easy thing to sit in court and have people drill you and talk negative about you, right? It gave her some energy, I think. I think anyways, when I watched her, and I thought, good for you. Like, you're using what it's meant for, right? So that was a good thing. They do reports for the person that's going through the court system. But if they did a GLADU report, it's more information about that person, about the community, about the family, about that. And to be recognized, like, yeah, they read the GLADU component of that report, but it's not really, at that time, maybe it's more effective now. At that time when I was there, I didn't find it effective. I would like to see that. I would also like to see our own Indigenous courts, like having the community justice, the sentencing circles, perhaps, in the communities, but more First Nations led rather than, because they still have sentencing circles, but they're more justice led. You still need a judge, you still need the Crown attorneys, you still need the defense lawyers and everybody else to take all the information. But I would like to see it being Indigenous led by that community, and go backwards a little bit on how we did court or that kind of stuff back then. And it's good. It has been improving, because now we have the judicial system that are more educated when it comes to First Nations, Inuit, Métis people, and as well as the justice, like the court clerks and everybody that works with them. And yeah, it was changing when I seen it, and it was for the better, because I was really, really impressed by some of the judges that were supportive. Egusimaga, diminenten gapen testawie kumagape yachumian. Mistahi atiskewan gistagano magagipe pitugotayach. Migona, wana swelgamik.
Amplifying Voices was developed in collaboration with over 60 Indigenous language keepers, experts, broadcasters, and academics, and is guided by an Indigenous advisory group comprising broadcasters, language experts, elders, and authors. The project is produced by Multicultural and the First Peoples Radio, and funded through the Radio Fund of Canada.